section is going to come to an end. I'm going to mark that closed. So that brings me to, what are we going to do for this stream? Like, I'm going to be continuing to work on the jungle game as we go through. But before then, last night, I think it was this morning, I got a, let's see, where is it? There you are. I got a comment on one of my videos, which was from Lesod RP. Hi, how can I replace the mesh by an image so my player isn't a rectangle? This was on the Game Program Patterns 4.2 Rust creating the player. And I do remember this, like, a lot of the time during this those builds, and in fact, like all of my previous games, my character was just a rectangle player. I wasn't really doing images until after this. Well, I guess like after the course at the end of it. So what I want to do is create sort of a tutorial how to create a player in Rust and GGEZ. So before I do the actual tutorial part and record that, I want to do like a little bit of experiment tutorial wise, where I want to build out the thing first, and then sort of reset the beginning and show, and then do it again as the recording tutorial. So you all will get to see like the raw part of me discovering and like what to do, and then there'll be the optimized tutorial at the end. Hopefully it's optimized. We'll sort of see how that goes. All right, so what I'm going to do is let's go actually create a new repository for this. And should I do a new repository for it, or should I do a maybe we just want to have this in our it's my video. Try to minimize the VS Code inside the video. It's like, that's not going to work. All right, so what I want to do is create a new directory inside of our playgrounds and open up VS Code there. Documents, code. Let's go into playgrounds. And what do we have in here? Let's create a new one. Okay, we could just do like a cargo. Let's actually Rust up update here, because I think a new one has come out. We are 147. And I think, yeah, that looks right. So we're at the latest Rust here on the Windows side. I think the problem we were finding is that the Linux side has issues with 147. It has to go back to 146. Okay, so with the latest version of that, I want to cargo new, and this is going to be exploring the images, like creating a player. And let's open up code here. So for the real one, I'm definitely going to store this into GitHub and like have all that code up there. For this one, for right now though, when I'm exploring, I generally have this folder, Playgrounds, where I don't really care about this code. If my hard drive dies and all this code goes away, it's not really that, like, I'm not going to cry that much. But what I am going to do is use it for sort of figuring out how things work, like what I really want to do here. So the idea for this this tutorial, I think, is to start with creating a player that we just have the rectangle of the player displaying, and then we want to replace that with an image. And even better yet, if we replace it with an image that has like a sprite sheet, and we can show the running animation. we can use our current player for that. So let's actually go grab that image first. Let me just grab it this way. So documents, code, let's go grab it from builds, jungle, resources. All right, so here's our, we have the standing player and we have the running player. So we probably want both of these. So in here, I think it's outside this. We're going to do a new folder. Sources. I'm going to grab you too and copy you in. And that did not move it. Perfect. So I'll be able to use this to sort of share around. Also, we created these, so copyright, don't have to worry about anything like that. I'll be able to share this as like part of the tutorial. Everybody can just use it. Which is nice about creating these assets ourselves. All right, so if I have a main, you don't want to use the, okay. Don't I have a G main? I do have a G main. Oh, come on. And I hit tab, that doesn't work. There it goes, okay. Come on, VS Code. You're like, every time it does something like this, where it's like almost works and doesn't quite, it kind of makes me want to just look back at like Vim or something else that like works every time. All right, so gonna have all this stuff, new project name. Like none of this really matters, but I am thinking I might be copying some of this over for the tutorial, or I might be starting, like the tutorial might be starting from scratch. I'm not sure. We'll have to like decide as we go along. But okay, so we need to bring in our crate and game state. So that's easy enough. Live.rs. Oh, we crate name. What did we call this? Creating a player. So creating a player, we'll get game state out of that. So struct game state. We need to pull in GGEZ, obviously. So let's go ahead and do that. And that should pull the, oh, right. We need to tell Rust Analyzer to recheck. Oh, and it's doing that right now. It has to reanalyze everything to sort of find it all. Takes a little bit of time. But that was one of the new versions of Rust Analyzer, is that it includes this, it includes the ability to sort of like reload automatically. And so we don't have to tell it to reload. Except in this case, oh, no, you're indexing now. There we go. Okay. I mean, it's not the fastest, but I didn't have to manually reload that. It probably would have been faster to manually reload it though. All right, so we have GGZ. You're telling me that I've spelled GGZ as an unknown word. I don't really care about that right now. All right, so now game state, you're telling me we don't have a new. Let's go ahead and do that. Game state. And then you are, let's have this pass in a context. Okay. And we already have this as a mutable reference. So you're going to take in a context, which is going to be but a mutable reference of it. And let's go ahead and return a game result with a game state inside. Okay, so that makes you happy over here. Now over here, we need to unwrap you. I could have main return a game result. And if I did that, can I do that? So game result, I don't think it really matters. Like, we're not going to pass anything in there. So you now can be question marked here. Okay. Mismatch types expect. Oh, wait. Am I not returning this? So now I need to just. There we go. Okay. Now you are. Okay. So the trait event handler is not satisfied. So we need to come back into here and import event handler for game state and fill in these functions. So we have update and draw. So that actually should make you happy here. And we have no errors anymore. So perfect. We have one warning. What's our one warning? Context. Oh, us not using context yet. Okay. So in update, we're not doing anything. So we're just returning okay. And for draw, we need to just open up, like just do basic draw. So we're going to first clear the screen or replace it with a black background. So that's going to be graphics, that graphics, clear, hand it the context. And then the color is going to be black. And then we want to present this clearing of the screen out. So present, hand it the context, and then we return the result from this. All right, what are you upset about? Oh wait, do you not return? Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought that that returned a game result, but it does not. Okay, so if I run this, well, after we compile everything, then we should have just a blank window, and we can set this to be like whatever resolution we want. But I think the default is going to be fine here because we're just going to have a player, and that's all we're really going to draw to the screen. All right, perfect. So we have our player here showing up. By player, we have the screen showing up. We want to now create a player and have it maybe jump around and move around. Perhaps we should create a floor for it to move on, or maybe that doesn't matter, and we can have just our player and like an invisible floor. I'm not sure. Maybe for this, let's create just a line, or a rectangle down here, and we can have that be our floor. So if we want to do that, then in our game state, let's store a floor. You're going to be a mesh. So then we're going to want to inside of here, create the floor mesh, which is probably just going to be a rectangle mesh of, I don't know, brown, green. It doesn't really matter. Our player mostly looks green, so I should probably stay away from green. You can use like brown or red or orange or some other fun color like that. Okay, so let's create our floor now. Okay, so rectangle, it's gonna be a draw mode. Okay, draw mode fill. Then we're going to, so for the bounds, we have a rect new. How big is this going to be? Well, it's going to be the entire size of the screen. So 0.0 for the X. For the Y, I actually want to start it mostly down, like down near the bottom. So that means we need like something like the floor height, which we can actually store as our rectangle in here. So that could be interesting. So and that would be us like separating out the floor structure from like this. So maybe we should do like a game object, and we can store those. So that way I won't have to have something like floor and then like floor floor coordinates, floor would this be like floor wouldn't necessarily be location, but it would include like the height, the width, like the floor rect. But if we do this as a game object, so if I create a new file here, object.rs, let's bring that in. And in here, I'm going to want to abstract object. So this one's going to store our mesh. We have our mesh. Now we're only going to do, as far as I know, we're only going to be doing the floor and the player. And we're probably not going to do a background. We'll just leave that as sort of like the black background. Okay, then size. The having it as a rectangle is actually nice for collision detection, because then I don't have to write that on my own. I can just use the rectangle that we have here. So I guess kind of a location. And this is going to be a rect. Now we're going to want this game object to encompass both our player and the background. So we're probably going to have to update this a little bit as we sort of figure out how that's going to look. Right now, if we just look at the background side of it, we know we're going to have a context comes in. And we're probably going to want this rect to be passed in. And so that way, yeah, we'll have our location is a rect. We'll pass that in too. And so that way we won't really care about this. Probably also need to pass in the image location once we get to the player, but I'll worry about that in a second. And then we'll probably have like options and other fun stuff. Like this mesh, we're either gonna have to do something like a mesh, or probably like the draw system for it to be separate. That might be good, is to have our draw system be separate. Because then we can have our floor draw system, and it holds the mesh, but the location is held by the game object, which I like a lot. Because then we've separated out the logic from like what the size of this thing is, where it is on the screen, from the image of it. So let's do that. We're gonna do a draw system, and you're gonna have to be a option. Now, right now, everything is gonna have a draw system, so we probably shouldn't have an option for this. We'll say we'll do a box. This is gonna be a Dyn draw system. Now we don't have a draw system yet, so that's gonna yell at us. Sure Shock, hello, you redeemed Pet the Cat. Let me see if Zilby is around. Zilby's not around, but I did bring his food. I don't know if you were able to hear that. Zilby is not around. But I brought his food down, so he should be fine. Sorry, YouTube didn't disturb him to stream, but Cat is too cute. Cat is super, super cute. I mean, I think it's worth it. I am experimenting with doing this markers. So this first part, I already did one section, which is sort of like an updates, and that's going to be its own video, like cut out of this. This entire stream, I'm going to put up as a VOD as like a raw stream, because I know some people, like I often like to watch the raw VODs from, for example, like Coding Train, and then when we get to the actual tutorial part where I'm like building this for real, I'm going to cut that out as a separate video too. And we'll see how far we get to that today. Like maybe I'll just do this part today, and then like on Monday we'll do this like the tutorial section of this. But like, yeah, let's not worry about that. Problem with watching raw stream is length is too high. I know, and I've been thinking about like, should I break it up? And that's actually a good question. If you're watching this on the VOD, or if it's just you here, what would you rather see? Cut up sections where I cut out sections of the raw stream that like aren't relevant, or the raw stream, like just the full raw stream, but I just cut it into like 20 or 30 minute segments and upload those separately. Because then when I do these long streams, they're still, they're not too long. Gamozo stream is like 24-hour. Well, I'm never gonna do something that long. I think my longest so far is almost 5 hours. And I think that's probably way too long. Except I do watch other people's long streams, and I just rely upon YouTube's resume feature. Cutting necessary section is good, but it'll waste your time. Yeah, I've been playing around with this marker section, so I'm actually I'm experimenting with using on my iPad, which I used to have my chat on. I now have a what is it? The stream board. I forget what it's called. I have it right here. It is the Stream Deck. On that. So I'm experimenting with that with the free month, and we're sort of like seeing out how that's gonna work. But in order for it to work, I have to remember to go over and like hit the marker button in order for it to like put in the link in the video, so I know to go and cut those sections out, start, end. We'll have to see how that ends up working. And I might just experiment with all the ones and see which are the most popular, which gets more views, which gets less views, which gets more people saying, I hate this forever. All right, so we're going to take in a location. We're going to return a game result. That's going to return a game object. All right, so let's build this. This one is just our floor. It's gonna be pretty simple. Oh, we're gonna need the draw system too. So the draw system, which is gonna be a box of a Dyn draw system. So I read a really interesting article that I found on Reddit the other day, which was instead of doing dynamic dispatch using traits and objects, use dynamic dispatch. Would it be dynamic dispatch still? Use polymorphism using enums instead, which I thought was interesting. Mainly because with enums you can use enum structs. So I might experiment with that in the future of doing it like the draw system this way, because then I won't have to mess with like the box and Dyn, and I could just say, hey, it's this enum arm. It would be a lot simpler, and it would work a lot better with like vectors and what is it called, like hash maps. But okay, so given this, we've taken these things, and we want to, in this case, do I even need our context? I don't actually know if I need a context here. I probably don't, because I probably just need a location that we're going to store as a rect, and then a draw system that we're going to store as the draw system. So we're just going to return okay, self draw system and location, and that's it. You're happy, except for the fact that we don't have any kind of draw system up there. So let's go ahead and create that. So I'm going to start all in one file, and we'll sort of see how this ends up going. Draw system. And it should be pretty simple for us to move past this. So we're going to start with a trait. So pub trait draw system. If I don't do anything with this, but I come back into game object and we pull this in, you are suddenly happier here. So now I can't actually create the draw system for this. So we're going to have a vector of game objects here. So this is going to be our game objects. It's going to be a vec game object. So when we create new, we're not going to create the floor here like this. Instead, we're going to have to create, let's see, game objects. Close new vec. Okay, so you're happy here now. I mean, it's not doing anything yet, but that's not too terribly surprising. We want to create a new game object to throw in, which is going to be the floor. To grit that, we need to create the draw system for it. So we have our trait draw system. So let's first create the actual floor. So I'm going to create in the same file here so we can see it all like together. And then I'll break it out if it becomes a little bit too complex. So pub struct. This is going to be the floor draw system. And we know that we're going to have to store a mesh in here. It's going to be our mesh. Because the floor draw system is on its own, it can store something separate than like the image that the player is going to draw. So floor draw system, mesh, that's pretty much that. We'll probably want a impl floor draw system of function new. So here's where we're going to want context. And we're also going to want to pass in, well, are we going to want to like pass in that floor so we know exactly what, or I guess the rect, so we know exactly what the width and height is? Or is just for the drawing purposes, it's just going to know what that is? Consistency could be a problem if I don't pass that in. Let's actually pass in the rectangle for like the location of this. So rect. I'm going to return a game result with a floor draw system. All right, so what do we care about here? We're going to create our mesh. A mesh builder new. So in this specific case, we know it's going to be a rectangle. So we're going to have a draw mode. Our bounds is just going to be this location. And then our color, let's do something like 0.7 for the red, maybe like 0.2 for the green, and 0.6 for the blue, and fully like opaque. That gives us our color. So we get a rectangle. We're going to build this, and at the context, question mark that. Okay, so now we have our mesh. Request has failed. Well, okay, how about I just restart you? I will see whether or not it still fails. Also, I realized that you are connected. Okay. My line highlighter is connected. I actually remembered to do that today. Okay, so we have our mesh, and then we're just going to store that away. So we're going to return okay, self. What? What are you upset about? Expected 4 arguments, found 3. 1, 2, 3. You need to be a comma. Oh, that was the problem. Okay, cool. Mesh is not in scope. Let's bring you in. All right, so we now have our draw system, but for that to work, we need to impl draw system for the floor draw system. There's nothing to really implement it for it yet, so that's just enough for it to know that, hey, that's this trait. It's essentially a marker trait right now. All right, so back to the main library. We want to create. Let's make this mutable. We want to create a floor and add that into the game objects. So that floor equals game object new. All right, so first of all, our location rect, which I believe we need to also pass into the draw system. So let's create this here. Floor location rect new. So 0.0 for the x. For the y, I actually need to know how tall this is going to be. So we need we need the floor height. And then, so let's see, that floor height is, let's make you something like 50 pixels tall. Oh, hey, welcome. We have a Zilby. So we get to do that pet the cat now. Oh, and he's a tired cat too. He was playing a lot this morning and a lot last night. Nope. Okay, never mind. He's back to playful mode. So quick with kittens. They're like, I'm tired. Play. No purrs today? You're too busy. The kitty just ran up the left side of the desk, crawled, jumped up and was on his way over to I don't have the cat cam on, but looked like he was on his way over to that. I need to clip his nails. They've been getting really sharp recently, but I just haven't had the time necessarily. All right, kitty, I'll put you down over here. You can play with your toys. Do you want one of those, or do you want to just hang up? All right, so where were we here? You're unhappy. Lots of things unhappy here. Didn't help that Zilby decided to do a little pair programming too. Okay, so we're creating the floor. In order for us to have the floor here, we need our location. In order for us to have, so we have the height, but to know where to start here, we need to have the full height of the arena, of the screen. So that's going to be that. Let's just do like the entire width, height equals. This is going to be. Up, you want to explore the desk? Where you want to go? Oh, back here. All right. Okay, so GGEZ graphics, drawable size, and this context. That gives us our width and height of the entire arena. Then we can use that with the floor height here to give us the height minus the floor height. And that's going to be our starting Y position. And then we're going to have the width, which is going to be the width. And then the height is floor height. So that should give us the rect here. Okay, so then you are location. So our floor location. I believe we're going to need. Do you implement clone or copy? I think it implements copy. So that'll be fine. Now our draw system. So we need a box new. And then here our draw systems. That's going to be our floor draw system new. And then we have to hand it the context and this location. So floor location. Then I need to question mark this. And then we have our box. And then here. Oh, that was it. That's it. Question mark that. And okay, now we have our floor game object. So I want to now push that in to the game objects. Game objects, push, floor. Okay, so then I want to draw that out. So I want that to happen here where we can for each through it and then just tell it to draw. So in order to do that, because we have the trait here, we need to come into game object and draw systems and tell the draw system trait that we have a function draw. So you're going to have a reference to self. We're going to have a context. And what else do we need? I don't know if we need anything else here. We know you're going to return a game result. And that's it. So now you are yelling at me because you need to implement this. So we're going to do a GGEZ, graphics, draw, and the context. The drawable is going to be this mesh. So a reference to self.mesh, and then the draw params. So the mesh is actually in the exact same right coordinates. So I don't need any draw params here. So we're just going to create default ones. Like that. And I'm just going to return this, which is the game result. So with that in mind, we have no errors. I can come back to our main library. We have our floor in here. We're going to ignore update, but I'm going to loop through all of our game objects. So self.game objects. Let's get in immutable. So just an immutable iterator. And then I want to try for each. We're going to get our game object out of here. And then I would just want to call game object.draw like that. Pass it in the context. I think that was it. And we'll question mark you. No method named draw found for reference. Game object in the current scope. Items from traits can only be used if the trait is implemented and in scope. So I need to pull in. So use draw system. We have this floor draw system. We also need to bring in, what is it? Just draw system. No method named draw found for you. So here's this method draw. So implement that. It's a public. Do you need to be pub here? I can never remember if the trait needs to be. No, it does. Okay, it definitely does not. Autosave, change that. So we pull in draw system like this. This is a vec of a game object. I'm thinking about this incorrectly. Yes. So game object needs to implement draw, which is going to forward this through. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to say game object inside of game object. We're going to now implement draw for this. So pub function draw. This would be just a reference to self and the context. We're going to turn a game result. And here we're just going to say self.drawSystem.draw and pass it in that context and return whatever is returned through. And this should work for us. So now it's sort of like passing, like playing a little bit of leapfrog through where it's like, okay, looping through all these game objects. You draw, and you're like, okay, you do the draw. I don't really care about you. It's just sort of a controller. And with that, we're going to cargo run this, and we should see our floor. Oh, that's a beautiful. I randomly just chose some numbers. That's what our floor looks like. It's beautiful. All right, so let's create our player next, and we're gonna have the player be a rectangle on top of this. So we have our player image. I want to match this for ourselves, just so I don't have to do any scaling with this. We know that you are 160 by 160, and with each of these running things, these are 160 on the Y. Now 800, that's really just 160 for each one of these. But we're gonna have to figure this out separately. Let's do the player standing first. So if I want to load up, let's say I want to have like the player draw system just be a very, very basic mesh where we're going to start with the rectangle and then we're going to replace the rectangle with the image. So we're going to do a pub struct player draw system. And then we're gonna start with a mesh, which is just a mesh, and I think that's gonna be it. Import player draw system function new. Okay, so we're gonna bring in the context, and we're gonna bring in the. Now, I don't think we're gonna really care about the location of the player necessarily here, because we're going to be moving. We're going to be translating the player around with the draw. Yeah, I think that's correct. So really, we're going to create our mesh up in the top left corner of like, what is it? It's going to be 160 by 160. That's what really we're going to do here. So we are probably going to want that rectangle. Or maybe we want to just create like the width and height on its own. So we can have our width, which is going to be a F32. The height is going to be an F32. And then we're not going to care about the location at this point. Chantilly, hello. Oh, and you got the new the Brooks Zilby work nap, because Zilby is napping on his toys. So I think that's all we're gonna need here. We're gonna do a game result with a player draw system inside. All right, so what is this gonna look like? If we want just a very basic rectangle around this. Oh man, I love the unsafe. The unsafe within the Ferris and the nap. Oh, that's great. If we get enough of more, English is not my strong suit today apparently. If we get more, I can't remember what the how many subscription points I need to unlock the next emote, then we can like add something more rest back in instead of Zilby. Something like the unsafe might be fun. And I was worried at first because I created the Zilby nap one as a level 2 emote, and I wasn't sure if people were going to be able to, if you were all going to be able to get that. But But yeah, it seems to work. I think you can still get those through through the channel points. But all right, so where we're going, we want to create a square for this. So our color is probably going to be just red because why not? So I guess we'll just start with this. So let mesh equals builder new. We're gonna do a rectangle. So this is gonna be our draw mode fill. Oh, it's 480 points. Oh, that's not too bad. That's perfect. Bounds. Okay, so what are the bounds for this? That's gonna be our we're gonna start with 0, 0. So we're gonna do a new rect. We're gonna do 0, 0, 0, 0 is our start. And we're gonna pass in our width and our height here. And then for the color, let's just do a color new, and we'll just do 1.0, 0.0, 0.0, 1.0. We'll build you. That's in a context, and we'll just return OK. Self, and you are the mesh. All right, so that gives us a new mesh here. Oh, you're gifted subbed, so you can get any emoji. Oh, perfect. Okay, I didn't. So like, I'm still unfamiliar with like how all of those things work. Rust Analyzer looks so nice. Needs to install it in Vim. I've heard that Rust Analyzer in Vim is really good, like potentially better than this, because here I need to constantly refresh it. And I was watching Mr. Halsey and some of the other streamers too were using Vim, and it was working so nicely. It makes me feel that I want to do that too. All right, so let's now import the draw system for the player draw system. Now, when drawing this out, we need to, well, we can just draw it out exactly where it is, which is going to be in the top left. But we've been writing a lot of code. Let's just do that so we can at least see it on the screen. So this is going to be GGEZ. Now, like some of the things that Rust Analyzer has changed some of my programming a little bit with this. Notice that I'm now doing like GGEZ graphics as opposed to just graphics. That's because the auto importer doesn't pull in graphics. And I do wonder whether or not it's because there's no, the graphics is lowercase g. I think that might be like its a limitation there. Because it doesn't know draw, it doesn't know graphics. I have to do the full qualified for this one here. And I'd rather do that than like just like manually bring it in once. It's like already changed my programming style. All right, so let's pull in context. The drawable is going to be referenced to self.mesh. And then the draw ram. We'll just get a new blank one and return you. All right, so you're happy now. Let's come back into the main library, and we're going to create the player and put the player into the system. So we do need the width and a height of the player, but we manually know what that is. So we're going to do now. Our game object needs to have a rectangle of what this is going to be. So that's going to include like its location and also its width and height. So we're going to do player location equals rect new. All right, so we know we're starting with 0.0 and 0.0. We're also going to be starting with our height and our width. So we know you're 160, 0 and 160.0. All right. And that's it for you. We're going to create. So let I guess we can just do this. You need the floor location for the draw system. Well, because our draw system is actually going to be different than this one. So all we really need is this player location, and we can now just do player. It's going to be game object new. All right, so this is going to be the player location. Then box new. The player draw system new. All right, so the context. The width said this is going to be the player location dot w, and the player location dot height. Question mark u, and you're happy, and then we'll push you in. Now with no extra work, we now have our player. What are you upset about? Your result. That's because we need to question mark you here. All right, so I should be able to run this, and we should now have our player in the top left. All right, so here's our rectangle representing our player. So perfect, perfect. It's beautiful, right? If we want to translate this down into like the center here and standing on top of the ground, then what I'm gonna want is, how do I want to do this? We need to set our starting location, which is gonna be this. So player location X. We already have the width here, so we're gonna have to do width divided by 2 minus half of our width, which we know is, just do player width equals 160, and 2 minus the player width divided by 2, and then here you're going to be the player width. Now what's interesting here is I'm going to eventually want to separate these out so that they're not the same, and we'll see exactly when that happens. Now, if I want to draw this, we need to tell the draw params at this point of time where's my player draw system. So I need to tell my draw here to go to like a different destination. So I need like a dot dest. So we need a translate here essentially. So if I were to, just for this draw system, for like what I need here, you're going to be a like a location. Now that being said, do I want to like just pass in where this is? Probably. This is gonna be a location, and you're gonna be a rect. You could be a reference to a rect, so we're not having to clone and copy so often. And then I can do a dest, and this takes a destination here. It takes a mint 0.2. A mint 0.2. But I can also just do an array like this and manually create location dot x, location dot y, and translate it down that way. All right, so you're going to yell at me until I add in you. To each of these. All right, so let's go up to our traits. Add in you. Now you're going to be upset because we need to add in you. Now we're not actually using this in the draw system for the floor. But we're gonna need to pass it in anyways. So, and that's where it gets a little bit tricky with the trait system here. All right, so you're not unhappy, but we're gonna have to come into game object here and pass in self.location, and really you want a reference to self.location. And now you're happy. Let's see if our player shifted over in the X. There you are. You're in the center up there. Now I want to shift this back down to the bottom. So it's going to be our draw system here. We actually have the X and the Y. So what that means is in our main library, when we're creating our draw system, instead of this here, we're going to do our, we need the player, we have the floor location. So we can do the floor location. And that's already giving us the height minus the floor height. So if I do floor location dot y minus, and then our height. So it's going to be that player height equals 160.0. And then we'll replace you with player height. So just by doing that, we should now have our player in the sort of the area where we expect it to be. Right here, standing on top of this. Okay, perfect. So this could be like a starting space of where we're going to be, because if I want to now replace this with the image of the player, what is that going to look like? I want you to be we want to store an image instead of the square. So come back to the draw system is where we're going to have to do this. So for the player draw system, we want to, instead of a mesh, store this as the image, and you're going to be the image. Oh, you don't even, okay, so you don't recognize. Oh, okay, fine, image. So image is going to be an image. So when we create this is going to be slightly different now. So instead of a mesh like this, we're now going to have to pull in an image. So that image equals image new. Pass it in the context, and then pass it in the path, which can just be a string of where this path comes in, and we're not going to have to worry about the width and height anymore. So we're just going to have a path, which is a string slice, and we'll just do path. That can be a question mark and image here. Now, I could even just keep that as mesh there. But in here, this is the only thing that's going to need to change. Image already implements drawable, so all we have to do is pass this into draw here. It'll translate it down to the correct location, and then we should be okay. All right, so if I want image self image, you're happy here. We're gonna need to pass in the path. So in the library, when we're creating the player, how come you aren't upset at me? You should be yelling bloody murder because I am passing in you, and you need to be a path, which is going to be slash jungle player standing. PNG. And I think everything else can remain the same. Oh, I forgot. When we create these, we need to copy into debug here the jungle player standing. So we need to add you in. There, copy you in and rego. And there we go. We now have an image showing up here. The problem is, I guess it's not really a problem. For collision detection purposes, our image is really wide. It's like out to around here. And I think we can actually, we can spend a few extra cycles because we're on a really good computer here. We can like do some of that here. So we're going to create in draw I'm going to create a new mesh to show the rectangle around the player, so we can see like what that looks like. So we're going to do that sort of like border equals, it's going to be a mesh builder. Now, I actually don't need to do this here, do I? I can do that up here. We can have a border. You're going to be a mesh. We can build our mesh around this. So let border equals. So this is going to be interesting. I want the border of the image and not of the actual like player itself. So we can get the width and height. So we have, and we're translating our image already because the image itself is like essentially 0, 0. So we can do width height equals image dot dimensions, and that should give us you. Oh, that fully gives us a rect. Oh, that's perfect. So your image rect. Okay, so you're a rect. I almost don't need to do this separately. I could just do this all together. So border is going to be a mesh builder, new. Rectangle. Let's not fill this. Let's actually do a stroke. The width we'll do 1.0. I think that should be enough for you all to see. We'll find out. Our bounds is going to be the image dot dimensions, and the color will make this red. And then we'll store this away in here. Then we'll just draw this again here. So and context, self.border, param new. And we do have to also do the exact same thing here. So we're going to do the destination, which is location.x, location.y. And so with that, we should be able to now see a border around our player. Okay, and so we see that this is a problem because for collision detection purposes, we don't want anything to hit the player if they get like within the player's personal space. We actually want to have the player be hit if they're like actually impacted, like if it comes this close to them. And it's going to be something interesting. So how do I want to deal with that? We need to now store in the game object the width and height of the player collision detection wise, whereas the image is gonna, like the draw system needs to store the width and height of the player image wise. And that way I don't have to go and like update the image to make them closer together. We don't always like have access to that, especially if you're buying your own resources. Like if you're buying assets from somebody else, yeah, we're not gonna get like somebody else saying like, hey, by the way, here is our player. Go ahead and customize it. Like we don't want to spend all that time. So we want to actually figure out how wide is our player. And I think it's going to be like cut in half essentially, width wise. Now height, I think having the full 160 is probably fine. But right now, if I come and I say player height, you're only 80. I think we're going to end up having a problem here. But let's go ahead and see what happens. If I just make that change and I cargo run, I wanted width, not height. Height was the one that was fine. You are the 80. That seems to be fine, except notice that we're no longer centered in the screen. Now the left-hand edge is centered, but that's just because I made it half of the width. So that's perfect here. But now our entire location is off. So we need to separate out the actual player width is this. But when we create our draw system here, we need it to like know to translate over by the appropriate amount. So I'm thinking what we do is we switch our game objects to store the location of the center of the object, and then we draw based around that. So if we go to our draw system, now specifically, we could do this just for one of them, or we could do it for all of them. But let's go to this player draw system here. And for drawing our player, I want to, we have this location that also gives it the X, Y, and the width and the height. So I want to start with the X and then minus by half of the width. So location dot width divided by 2. And then the same thing for the Y. Even though the Y is fine, I want to be consistent. We're just going in the center. So minus location dot height by 2. So where are you upset about? Where's the upsetness happening? I have 9 errors. Oh, this always happens where I get these errors inside of inside of graphics, inside of GGEZ graphics for the macro, which is not really all that helpful for me. This is another thing that I'm thinking, like, is the Rust Analyzer version of Vim not going to give me that problem? Because this works still. Like, I don't have any problems here. All right, so we're drawing the draw square correctly, but we've now moved the image into the incorrect place. And that's because we now need to calculate the image based upon the center location, because we just told the draw system, hey, you're drawing the center of the player. All right, so Easy enough fix. When we create our new player, we need to take that into account now. So our player location this is just going to be the center, center X. So width divided by 2. I don't need to calculate this in anymore. Now this one's going to be interesting. Floor location Y, so the bottom of that floor, minus player height divided by 2.0. All right, let's try this again. And our player it's still shifted over to the right a little bit. So that's not exactly where we want to be. So we have our width divided by 2, so that's exactly in the middle horizontal wise. And then our location Y is going to be floor location dot Y minus player height divided by 2. That should be fine. Oh, you know what? Our player width. We actually do want this to be half of the width over. So 2 minus player width divided by 2. So that we're in the middle there. So I think you should be happy. Okay. So our player is in the correct location, but now our border is incorrect. So we're not showing the border around where the image is anymore. So now we need to fix that. So our border here is this is based upon the locations around like where the image is, and this is gonna be really tough for it. So we're probably gonna need to translate the border over too. So image bound, image dimensions. So we're gonna have to translate this properly. I wonder if we can just do it exactly the same as this. And there we go. Our border is of the image around. Now, if I want to create a border for the actual player, that might be something sort of like similar to have to put in here. I wonder if we want like a completely different draw system for it. Are you gonna try with Vim sometime? I want to try with Vim. I need to set up everything. Like I need to do like a new Vim RC file because I haven't set that up in a long time, and I know that there's so many cool like package managers now that I could use. And then every time I've gone to like set up Vim in the past, it ends up just being a lot of just deep diving into all of that, and then at the end going like, this is cool, but it's not fully set up, so I'll just keep on using this and then not turning to it. So maybe we can have like a Sunday longer stream where I just set up Vim, and that might be fun. Especially because then, like when I do Raspberry Pi type stuff, we can SSH into Raspberry Pi. I could have my Vim RC inside of there, and that could work out really well. Yeah, I think that would be a lot of fun. So I want to create a new mesh for the border around the player itself. Not around the image, but around the player. Hey, Lord Mist, hello. So we have our path here. We're gonna want the player location, or rather essentially the player width, and the player height, which isn't gonna change. So height F32. You've been learning a new language. Nice. Oh, that sounds like a fun language. Is it what are the features of Hax? So let's do, so we have the, I'm going to change this from border to image border. And then I want to create a new one, player border. And you're also going to be a mesh. And we're going to create this now. Let's let player border builder new. Okay, so rectangle job mode. Also going to do stroke. We'll do 1.0. For the bounds, we have to do a new rect. We have to create this one ourselves. So we're going to do 0.0, 0.0. Now, this is going to be interesting. We should actually make this in the center of this. And because we have the width and height, we can do that. So our 0 is going to be our negative width divided by 2.0. And our height is going to be negative height divided by 2.0. And then for the color, we're going to make this... we can make this just white. And then we'll store you away. It feels a bit like Java, but not completely, and it compiles to absolutely everything. Oh, is it an intermediary language where you can just basically write in that and then it just goes to wherever you want? So write in Hacks goes to Rust, write in Hacks goes to JavaScript, write in Hacks goes to Java. Sounds interesting. Okay. Then when we draw here, we also want to now draw this other border. And it's also got macros. Ooh, nice. You can compile it to JVM bytecode, NicoVM bytecode. I never heard of NicoVM. C++, Python, JS, Java, PHP, C#, and more. Oh, nice. That's pretty cool. Okay, so we're gonna now draw this out. Context, our drawable is gonna be self dot the border, the player border, and then our draw params. So draw param, new. Now we need to translate this. So dot dest. Now we already have it in the center for the mesh. So all we have to do is just tell it to go to wherever I want to go to. So that's going to be pretty easy. We're just going to say location.x, location.y. And we should be happy. No errors. Let's go ahead and run this. See what... Oh, no, we have errors. Let's see. What do we got here? This function takes 4 arguments, but 2 arguments were supplied. Right, because now we need to supply... For this new, we need to add in width and height. So back into the main library. When we create the new location, we have the path. We also need to add in our player width. So player width, player height. All right, so we should be happy here. Let's try this again. Now we have 4 arguments, 2 were supplied. Expected 4 arguments, rect new. Oh, I missed that. It's in our draw system here. When we create our new rectangle, we also have to give it the width and height. Okay, now you should be happy. No. No field border on type. Okay, so where did I miss the border? So your self dot border, your self dot image border and yourself.player border. I think that search was screwing me up a little bit. Here we go. Okay, so that's interesting. We have the border around here, which is not necessarily around our player. Oh, you just noticed the cute kitten cam. Yeah, I know. Now that I guess like it's later in the day, so Zilby's had his fun and now is sleeping on I guess the little tree that we got for him, and he's just right. But I don't want to wake him up. Okay, so we need to translate this over. Maybe we do. Okay, so we know that our location is based upon the middle here. So we're passing in a reference to the location. So what's going on with that? We need like the middle is actually where the player is. That looks right. Now, is that true? The middle actually looks here. So maybe our player location is a little bit wrong. It's a little bit hard to tell. Like if I find I don't necessarily have like a ruler in the middle of my screen to like fully see, but this looks like the middle of the screen to me. So we created this border based upon the width and a height, which is half of the width and half the height into the negative. Basically 0 minus half of the width within the full width and height. So it should go over like we have the square right in the middle with the border around it. So theoretically that should be happy. Drawing this wise, we're happy on the Y it looks like, but not on the X. We have the same logic here. So we have the width coming in and the height. For you, you think Hacks is also very commonly used for game dev. Oh, interesting. I wonder if it's used for that for like mods, like to support mods in game dev. I know that like Lua is used a lot for that. So player width, which is 80 here, and then the player height, which is 160. So that should be like 40 essentially. Oh, and of course you could always also compile it to Lua. I mean, I guess like with not too surprising with that, with all the other targets that it can go to. Seen a lot of game frameworks for Hacks. Oh, interesting. Oh, weird. I wonder what games that are deployed out there use it, or if it's just more of like a learning tool. So if I set you, if we set this player border to just 0.0, and I keep the width, the height the same, what changes? Then we get translated over into here. So that's our problem, is that we need to start it up here and then change it to be over here. So that's perfect. So we can now see that the width of our player in the game object is separate from the image width. And so this inner one is going to be our collision detection. And we can even tighten that up even more. You can say instead of 80, maybe you're even 50. And that's not like showing up by the right amount, is it? What if we let's set you to be so we have to do a little bit of math here. Oh, you've solved some of the Advent of Code challenges and hacks. Ooh, nice. I haven't done any of the Advent of Code challenges this year. Usually I start like the first one, go through like the first 3 or 4, and then just run out of time and stop doing it. And that's because like in the past we were always traveling so much in December, and then I was just no time. And then this year is craziness too. So maybe next year. Maybe also we could just do out of season Advent of Code. That could be fun too. Okay, so if I want to have our square and like translate that around, so I might. Where's my cable? Have you? Am I creating a tutorial now? I'm creating the code sort of like to get familiar with what I want to do, and then I'm going to record a tutorial. Probably will end up recording the tutorial tomorrow morning, or the next day, like basically during the week. And then today is sort of like figuring out what I want to do with it. And then maybe we'll just do this as a tutorial of how to like get started with GGEZ, like drawing out a player and going through all of that, like setting up, getting the blank screen working. That could be good for us. Now, okay, so I have a Wacom tablet. This is like the very basic stuff. You don't do anything here, so I need maybe paint. Paint 3D. I don't want that. You come over here. I'm mostly doing this just for myself right now because I need like a whiteboard to see how things are going. So we know that we have. Where's my? There you are. Oh, I can barely see my my cursor. Oh, that's fun. So given this entire window, we have something like our entire. We have something like this. Try you again with fill this time. No? You don't want to fill? There. That did it. So if I do this, our color is now going to be... I suppose this isn't the best color for that if I'm using like the same colors that I have outside. Let's do something like... Where's our fill? There you are. Sure, that's fine. Okay, so I want to do this. I want to do an outline mode. Outline a solid color. No fill. We're doing red. We say something like our player is like this. And you're standing on top there. And we can maybe even draw our nice player. Oh, cool. That's wonderful. Beautiful, beautiful. Can you even see that? Where's my select? Should probably draw it inside the box here. So we have our player. We have all this extra space around them. I don't know where the select tool is. And then we're gonna have another box. So this one is gonna be, maybe we'll make it orange. I want this box to be around the player, just barely like that. I don't know how to select. Like there's so many tools here. Brushes, don't need that. Oh, that deleted stuff. Don't need that. Okay, but anyways, the center of the player is right here. So that's essentially like that. Oh, that's cool. Invert the color. And then I want all these borders to actually be borders that are centered around this too. So that means this border right here, the orange border, that's going to be the border around the player object as opposed to around the image itself. So it's if we imagine we come back to, we do something like this, then we're going to have a width that's measuring this. If we say that your width is something like 50, and you're 160 in the height, then our center location here, if we say that you are starting at 0, 0 in this top left corner, we're going to be 25. We want to shift this all the way in here so that 0, 0 is actually here. Well, that's a terrible line. Something like this. And then also 0, 0 is here. So this would be 0 and 0 along the X. That's maybe not the best image graphic, but that means we need to start at 50, draw you at 0, 0 here. This top left corner is actually going to be negative 25. So what? How can an eraser make you orange? What kind of eraser are you? There we go. Can I make you bigger? Not really. Okay, so then you are going to be negative 25 on the X, and then the Y is going to be negative half of this to go up. So this is going to be negative 80 on the Y. So X, Y. And that's going to be our start of our rectangle. So start here, then have our width of 50 and our height of 160, and that will give us the center spot. And then when we draw it out, we just have to tell it, okay, here's your I don't even know if we have, well, we have to translate it. And this is where it's going to be interesting, because as the player moves left and right across the screen, or even up and down as it draws, we want to change just the center, like the center position of the player. We have to translate this around. So do we even care about that anymore? Not really. Or maybe we start the drawing out here. And we know we're drawing here at the start of where the player is, but then the player moves 1 pixel to the right. We now need to translate this over 1 pixel to the right. Yes? Where do you want to go? Oh, we have some food back there, so he's going to eat. Okay. So I guess doesn't matter. Like maybe we should start with just if we have this as like the X and this is the Y, maybe we should just draw this as a rectangle. Something like this. And then we'll translate this over based upon the center mark here. That might just end up being the easiest thing to do. And instead of doing the calculations up front, here we'll just do the calculations when we draw. We have to do those calculations anyways to translate over, so it's not that much more expensive. Just do like an add or subtract. The CPUs are really good at that. So we're gonna come back to our draw system, and we're gonna say, okay, you're X and you're 0, 0. You're gonna be 0 and 0. Then we're gonna have our width and a height, so that will give us the border. Then we're gonna come down here when we draw this border around. We're gonna have to subtract, so minus location dot w 2.0 and location dot y. Yes, location dot y height 2.0. If we draw this, our square should be around the player proper. And it's not. What's going on here? This makes me wonder, is our player really in the center? What we can do here is in our main library, let's actually draw a mesh. We'll create a mesh and draw it out for like essentially creating a grid, like just a line down the center so we can play around with this. I'm going to do let center line y equals mesh builder new. I think we just create a line and then the points. So I want halfway along the top. So we need let width height equals drawable size. Okay, so points wise, you need to be a reference to a bunch of points. So you're going to be a reference to an array of, I think, kind of points. Mint points. So we're going to go like this, and then we'll just have the X and the Y. So for the X, it's going to be the width divided by 2.0, and for the Y, 0.0. And then the next line is going to be our width divided by 2.0 and the full height. All right, so what's next? We have the points. Width, we can make this 1.0. For the color, let's just choose a new color at random. Do something like 0. White is 1.0, I think, for everything. So we'll just do this as 0.9, 0.7, 8. To make it nice and bright. So then you need to be a question mark, and we can build question mark, and then we'll do a draw. All right, so if I do that, we need to pull you in. We should now be able to see exactly the center. Aha, okay, so here's our problem is that our player isn't actually in the center like we thought that they were. Eyeballing it is just not really helpful in this case, but now we can see this line does seem to be in the center properly here. So we need to pull this player in and make sure that they're being displayed in the center. So for our game object, we know that the location that we want them to be in the center right now. So when we create our player, it's going to be the width divided in half. So that's the center of the entire arena minus half of the player width, which is 50 right now. Okay, that seems fine. And then floor location divided by floor location y minus the player height, half of the player height. So that should be right here. That's where that should be. Then we're going to create our draw system, and let's do the player part first. So the image, because the image is going to be loaded up in the 0, 0 point. So we need to subtract our image location.x. Now if we just do this, location.x and location.y, that's where we're going to place our image. The image starts right here, and there's a bunch of sort of space in here. So we need to translate our image halfway to the left. So that's going to be now, but not half of the, and this is where it's going to be interesting, not half of the, this location. We need half of the image's height. And we don't have that out right here. But we can do is we can say minus self dot image dot width. You give us a U16. Oh, lovely. As F32. And then the Y should be minus, oh, and then you need to be divided in half. And the same thing here. So location.y, not location.y, it's going to be minus self.image.height as F32 divided by 2.0. So if we do that, now our image should be in the center. And you're close to being in the center, but that's not exactly what I want. So we have half of the width. Now, are you happening in the right order here? I want location.x. It's like, where is the location? And we would then want to translate that over by the middle of the image. So am I supposed to divide this by like 4 instead, like quarters? Because if we take a look at what we have here, this is the spot where we want the player to be. Maybe actually let's create one more sort of graphic here to show. In our player draw system, let's also do center point, mesh. I'm gonna make a circle. Mesh builder. New dot just a circle mode. This can be mode fill. The point of where this is going to be, we can translate this over easily. So we're going to say 0.0, and we actually need to be. I think we should say 0, 0. Our radius, let's do like a 5.0 radius, 1 tolerance, and we can make this just white. And we'll throw you in here. Then we'll draw you at the very end. Okay, draw param, new dot dest, and you're going to be our location.x, location.y. That should actually be exactly where the player wants to be, because circles are all drawn from this spot and then they go out from there. So that should be a lot easier for us to sort of see what's happening. Okay, so this is our player center location, and that's actually seen properly where the center of the player is. So that tells me that we're not telling the game object to be in the center properly. So that's interesting. So in our main library here, I want to, so player locate, okay, so create a new player location. So it's X is gonna be width divided by 2. The width we got from the drawable size. So it's just the arena size. So that's in a center. We don't need any of this stuff. We want just full in center, and then you are gonna be there. Okay, so let's do that. There we go. Now our player is in the correct spot, and we see this this graphic here is in the correct spot too. So that's going to be our collision detection rectangle around them. And then we need the image rectangle to be in the correct spot around the player. So if we do that now, let's take a look at our draw system. So you're the image border. Let's just set you to be where you think that you should be. So we'll start with 0.0, 0.0. Sort of like no trend. Oh, that translates up to the top. So let's do, I think what we need to do is -half. So where did we create this? We have our image border, and we've set you to be new image border, stroke, rectangle, bounds, image dimensions. So the image dimensions is going to be, I believe, 0x, 0y, and then the full width of the image and the height of the image. So if we don't do a dest here for the image border at all, I just do that, it should be starting from the middle of the image. Oh, it has the image up there. Okay, so we need to translate this over to here, and then subtract a little bit, and then start it here too. So dest. All right, let's do this down here. So for our X position, the X position is going to be starting at our location. So location.x. Now that's that middle, like the absolute middle of the screen. And we need to subtract half of the width of the image. So that's going to be the self.image.width as f32 divided by 2.0. And then we want to do the exact same thing for the y. So our location.y minus self.image.height as f32 divided by 2.0. Okay, so if I do that, now let's see. I think we should have all of our borders in the correct configuration now. Yes, perfect. Okay, so now we have our player. We've replaced the mesh, which was the rectangle, with the image, and we have two different locations. We have the sort of like the location, the width and height of the image itself tracked separately from the width and height of the player for collision detection purposes, which the game object only cares about what the width and height of the player is. And so if we end up creating like the player actually moving around, then that will be fine. We'll be able to sort of handle all of that. So I think what I want to do starting tomorrow is creating because tomorrow's Monday. Today's Sunday. We're gonna start creating the tutorial of like just going through GGEZ and setting it up. So if you missed like earlier my my updates for the week, basically I came to the realization there's just no way I'm gonna be done with the Pitfall game in time. So I'm gonna pivot around. We're gonna do some of these tutorials, just give my brain a break to relax again. I was starting to get stressed out from like just trying to rush too fast with it. I'm also got something coming up in January that I'm not going to be able to work on the game during that time. So might as well, until that time, fill it up with doing some of these tutorials, which I think will be helpful. I think this also is going to answer the question that we got on YouTube about how to replace this the player with this. So I'll be able to send this video out to that person, and we'll make a much more polished version later this week, hopefully. But with that being said, it is 12:05, 12:06 now. I think I'm gonna sort of wrap this up and go have lunch, especially since my tea is now cold and I'm starting to feel cold down here. So, because I forgot to turn on the heater. All right, so I haven't saved any of this code off. I think for the real one we're gonna do starting tomorrow, I'll definitely save the code for that, and maybe we'll even do this as a game, sort of like a rapid game engine for a like a tutorial as we slowly build upon it for a generic platformer, and then I can reuse that as like not necessarily rebuild, but definitely take things in for the Pitfall game and make it a lot easier for ourselves in the future. So it'd be sort of like almost a game engine on top of a game engine. Inception much? All right, so with that, we've got all these things going. I didn't save this in GitHub. The future one definitely will be saved in GitHub. This is just a playground. You also, Lord Ms., you were showing us hacks. Let's go take a look at that. There's the URL. All right. Oh, Hacks 4 even. So it's been around for a while, it looks like. Released. Okay. Pretty recent. Couple. Three months ago. Oh, man. I was going to say, like, today. It's October. No, it's December now. Jeez. With cross-platform applications targeting JavaScript. All right. What does it look like? You have like a, okay, so class, okay, so it's class based. So that sounds like it's object oriented then? Its syntax largely follows the ECMAScript standard. Okay, so it's trying to be very similar to JavaScript in that way. Yeah, okay. So I can definitely see if they're trying to follow the ECMAScript standard, then compiling to JavaScript is going to be really easy. Most Hack's code is organized in classes and functions, making Hacks an object-oriented language reminiscent of Java, ActionScript, and C#. Interesting choice of languages to compare themselves to. The Java makes sense. ActionScript, but C# also makes sense too. Okay, but because they're following ECMAScript, that means that functional programming with this is also going to be possible. Hopefully. Everything is expression. Okay, yeah, that's going to make it. And functional programming. Just there it is. Nice. Yeah, this looks kind of cool. This looks kind of fun. And you also had like what some of your challenges looked like in Hacks. What? No. How about remind me later? Thank you. All right, so let's see what do we got here. Source. So our task, the Lord Miz, I assume that these are each of the days. Okay, so like day 1. So we have class A1 implements task. Okay, so you're that's not where task is created. Util. Okay, interface task. Okay, so they have interfaces. So already it's more like TypeScript at that point in time because obviously JavaScript doesn't have interfaces. Okay, so you have function part 1, function part 2, and the name in there. You also have, okay, so this does sort of look like, okay, you get it set what the type is. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of TypeScript a little bit. So they did not have constructors, and that's why you have to create new like this? Interesting. Okay. Public function part 1 of our values, util input. Okay, so you grab the input for part 1. You loop through. Okay, so they do for I in values. Is this, I assume, an array? You do a double loop. If I plus j is 2020, then you, okay, so sys print line is how you print out. And then you're returning as soon as that happens. Otherwise, just nothing. Interesting. Okay, so you're using that as like an early exit. You're just trying to figure out what I and j are. And then part 2, we have the same thing, except it's I, j, and k. Triple nested loops. Oh, how fun! And there we go. All right. Well, it's definitely an interesting looking language. I'm still so like in love with Rust though that I have a hard time finding the time to like look at any other languages right now, because like I just want to do this on my own time. As in Rust on my own time, as opposed to like all the languages. I just don't have time anymore. It's crazy. But anyways, that's cool. That's a nice sort of like look into that. I could add it to my list that I may never get to. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to the ending screen. Thank you so much, everybody, for stopping by. I'll be back tomorrow morning. We're gonna start working on an actual like tutorial series. Now that I sort of like know how, like the first part we're gonna do is that player and like getting that going. And that's gonna be the question answered for the question that we got in the YouTube comments about like how to replace squares with the actual player from an image. And then we'll just sort of go from there as we create some tutorials until January 4th, when something new will start for us, which is I'll be starting a new course myself. And anyways, if you want to chat about that, you can follow me in Discord with the bang Discord command, or follow me here on Twitch or on YouTube or Twitter for announcements for when I'm going live and new videos. The Only Shade. Yeah, have a great day. And I'll see you all next time. Thanks everybody again, and bye.